I remember the exact smell of the lecture hall that day: stale coffee, floor wax, and the sharp, acrid sting of betrayal. down-Aris, the man who'd mentored me through 6 years of graduate school, the man I'd trusted with every draft of my research on urban plant medicine, stood at the podium holding my notebook. My notebook. He was presenting my findings on how dandelion root and city-grown feverfew could treat hypertension in low-income neighborhoods as his own breakthrough. When I stood up to object, the board chair told me to sit down. Aris had already filed the patents, and I had no proof. I was discredited before I'd even finished my PhD. That was the day I learned the first, hardest lesson of my life. When someone steals your work, they don't just take your ideas, they try to steal your right to exist in the field you love. My family's reaction. Man, that hurt worse than the board's dismissal. I'd grown up hearing my dad say botany was playing in the dirt for people who can't hack real science. My mom rolling her eyes so hard I thought they'd stick when I brought home pressed weed samples for show and tell. When I showed up on their doorstep, discredited, patent stolen, they didn't hug me. My dad handed me a stack of retail job applications. "You're an embarrassment to this family," he said. "Give up this ridiculous weed obsession before you make us look worse." I packed my bag that night, $12 in my pocket, a crate of dried plant samples, and a burning, unshakable need to prove that the work Aris stole mattered, and that I still did too. I pivoted to the most mocked, neglected corner of my field: edible native weeds. People called me a trash forager. Strangers in grocery stores laughed when I told them purslane had more omega-3s than salmon. I slept in my car some nights testing soil in vacant lots, mapping every knotweed and lamb's quarters cluster in the city's forgotten corners. I wasn't just studying plants anymore, I was fighting for the right to be seen. The first 2 years were a grind of rejection. Grant applications came back stamped frivolous. Community centers turned me away when I offered free weed identification workshops. I got a citation once for harvesting dandelions from a public park, but I kept going. I found a vacant lot in a food desert, soil so contaminated with lead it couldn't grow grocery store tomatoes. I planted a mix of native edible weeds: lamb's quarters that pull heavy metals from the ground, clover that fixes nitrogen, purslane that thrives in poor soil. Within 6 months, the lot was green. Within a year, we were harvesting 40 pounds of nutrient-dense greens a week, giving them away free to families who hadn't eaten fresh vegetables in months. The soil lead levels dropped 60% in 2 years. That was the seed that grew. I started partnering with cities across the country, turning brownfields into edible ecosystems. We weren't just growing food, we were rehabilitating land that had been written off, healing communities that had been ignored. The trash forager label faded. I got a MacArthur grant at 32. My research on rehabilitative ethnobotany, using native plants to heal both ecosystems and people, became standard curriculum in universities. The same board that discredited me invited me to keynote their annual conference. I said no, I had bigger work to do. 5 years after I left, I drove back to my hometown. The city had just awarded me the contract to rehabilitate the old steel mill site, 200 acres of toxic slag that had sat empty since I was a kid. My family still lived 2 blocks from the mill. I didn't call ahead. I waited until opening day when the mayor, the press, and half the town showed up to see the first green shoots pushing through the slag. My parents were there, front row, my dad in his usual flannel, my mom clutching her purse. When the mayor called my name to cut the ribbon, I saw my dad's face go white. He'd followed my work. I realized later he'd just never admit it. I gave my speech, talking about the kid who used to press weeds in old library books, the girl who was told she'd never amount to anything. I showed them the soil tests, lead levels down 70% in 3 months. I introduced them to Maria, a single mom who'd been volunteering with us, who said the free greens had helped her son's asthma. After the speech, my parents walked up to me. My dad's hands were shaking. He didn't apologize, not exactly. He just held out a jar of pressed purslane, the same sample I'd brought home for show and tell when I was 10. "We kept it," he said. "Your mom always said it was pretty." My mom cried quietly and hugged me. down-Aris sent a letter last month asking to collaborate on a new project. I didn't reply. He doesn't get to be part of this. This is for the kids who get told their dreams are trash. This is for the weeds that grow through concrete. I learned that the most beautiful things in life are the ones people try to bury. You just have to keep watering them.